Return of the Blossoming Blade has finally returned onto Webtoon after a 9-month hiatus. One of the funniest, most action-packed series that oozes personality and charm. No joke, one of my favorite action series has returned. But that's next week, baby! Today we're not talking about that masterpiece. Instead, we're talking about something else. Something that if you really love Return of the Blossoming Blade, there's a good chance that you'll love it too. In the wonderful world of Webtoon webcomics, there's an interesting amount of stories that focus on the world of martial art sects. And by interesting, I mean lots of them. Return of the Blossoming Blade, Nano Machines, Best Teacher Baek, Reincarnated as an Unruly Heir. Even I'm the Max Level Newbie has some stuff in the background. And the one I wanted to talk about today, the one I'm keeping mysterious for the sake of extending your watch time. Ooh. If you don't know what martial arts sect series are, then you're in luck. It's pretty simple. Simple enough. Sects are basically groups or families that have their own rules, sometimes religion, they have their own selected leaders, yada yada yada. They teach a bunch of youngins stuff their entire life, though it's usually martial arts. These martial arts, by the way, aren't karate or Krav Maga or anything like that. They can sometimes focus on the study of weapons, swords, spears, axes, bow staffs. They also focus on ki or gi, or depending on the series, it'll change. It's basically the magic equivalent system in the world of martial arts. Ki, or its many other forms, are how these characters do all this impressive stuff. From increasing their speed and strength, summoning sword auras, special techniques, and more. The good thing about having so many different series with the same premise is that, while it can be a little confusing at first, basically all the series follow the same rules. So if you understand one series, you understand it in all of the series. And the second reason is because of perspective. There are so many series that focus on this specific world, and while there is overlap in many series, for example the manhwa sect is mentioned in like multiple different ones, each series handles it differently. One series has them more as background characters. Another series has them as the main characters, while a different series entirely might have them as the villains. These series are always so much fun. The action is really on point, and I'm a big fan of like teaching/learning arcs. Arcs where our main characters either teach other people or is taught and trained. It's weird to say education arcs, but yeah, that unfortunately checks out. So out of all of these series, from the fantastic Return of the Blossoming Blade, the unique take of Nano Machine, the teacher arc of Best Teacher Baek, and the subverted expectations of Reincarnated as an Unruly Heir, what makes today's series, Infinite Leveling Murim, stand out as much as it does? Well, I think it's because it doesn't. You see, I've been reading this series basically since the beginning, but it's always kind of been a series that I've overlooked. I've liked it. Look, I like every series I'm subscribed to, some more than others in some way. I should make a tier list. Maybe another day. Anywho, I overlooked Infinite Leveling Murim, and if you overlooked this series, I don't blame you. Out of all the series that have the same premise, it definitely looks the most plain, basic. Return of the Blossoming Blade, Nano Machine, and Best Teacher Baek all have incredible art. Even compared to their earlier action set pieces, Infinite Leveling Murims are all good, but they feel a lot more grounded, a lot more realistic compared to the more fantastical action set pieces in these other ones. But if you judge something so early on, you're gonna miss out on something incredible. Infinite Leveling Murim follows Yusong Dan and his death. Yeah, it's another one of those time regression series. Yusong Dan is on the front lines fighting against Shunma, the big threat of this series and actually Return of the Blossoming Blade as well. He's not anything special. He's basically just fodder against Shunma. Adding with it the corruption of the Alliance and the betrayal of some of their strongest warriors, I'll get back to that, all of that leads to his unfortunate and ultimately meaningless death. But he gets sent back in time 30 years. It's the biggest jump in one of these series so far. Yusong Dan is, he's nothing special. In fact, he's less than nothing special. He's not talented like in The Return of the Blossoming Blade, or in Reincarnated as an unruly heir. He hasn't had special and unique training like best Teacher Baek. He doesn't even have nano machines injected in him from one of his descendants from the future. Take a guess which series that's from. Yu Sun-dan was born as the lowest class, literally called a dirt poor class, represented by a wooden spoon for some reason. He had no wealth, he had no talent, he had no connections, he had nothing. Because of this, all his hard work only led him down a path that caused his meaningless death. But he has two advantages starting again. One is his knowledge and experience. Sure, he's basically in the body of a child, so he technically has no physical experience, but he remembers how to fight. He remembers, technically speaking, future techniques and skills. He has knowledge of the future. And the second is a system. Now, like every series with a system like this, Yu Sun-dan can monitor his stats, his skills, can use inventory, can access quests, all that fun stuff. But I actually like the system more than all except maybe from the Greatest Estate Developer. Unlike all other systems, these quests have actual penalties for failing. Penalties that actually happen throughout the series. From zero initiation, i.e. passes out for hours, or an electrified status, which basically makes him electrified every move he makes. There are actual stakes in this system. Anyways, with these two things, Yusun's second chance at life is off to a great start. Except for the fact that he is super untalented. Like, there could not be someone less talented than him. That's kind of the whole point of the series, though. He stands shoulder to shoulder with geniuses, from the sect he's in to other future powerful warriors, even someone from the manhwa sect. All of this because of one thing, and that's hard work. He works himself to the bone, non-stop training and becoming stronger. He has so many people around him that are just geniuses. He has to work 5 times as hard to even catch up with them. This is the premise of the entire series. Yu Sun-dan is no prodigy. He's no genius. He can't easily do things that everyone else can. He struggles to grasp on to things past what a beginner could grasp onto. He's the ultimate loser, for lack of a better term. That's kind of the point of the series, though. He's not supposed to be this incredibly talented, gifted, special character. In fact, he's basically what you would be if the chosen one was the opposite, the least chosen one, the unwanted one. It's the focus of the entire series, how unqualified he is throughout the series. Well, kind of. It's actually more how unqualified he should. We see this all the time, based on every moment, every fight, every talented, gifted student and prodigy he faces. But the easiest way to see this is actually quite early on. In the early chapters, we see Yu Sun-dan training, learning, fighting alongside his teammates and fellow misfits. But it all leads up to one battle. This battle between Yu Sun-dan and Shoren Yan. Now, for context, Shoren Yan is from the manhwa sect. Yes, the same sect from Return of the Blossoming Blade. In fact, they even have basically the same logo. He's actually the biggest reason why I called the manhwa sect a villain earlier on. Well, him and the sects being prideful and all that fun stuff. And for some more context, they actually have a bit of personal history. You see, in the old timeline, Yu Sun-dan had a wife. Emphasis on had, as Shoren Yan kind of, stole his wife. So there's a little bit of hatred. Anyways, these characters are kind of the antithesis of each other. Yu Sun-dan is a dirt-born soldier. He has no talent, barely any training, and the only thing he has going for him is a system, years of field experience, and true, honest-to-goodness hard work. Contrast this with Shoren Yan. While Yu Sun-dan was born dirt poor, Shoren Yan is the opposite, higher than Golden born, Ethereum born. It's a special metal, it's irrelevant. He was born with endless talent and wealth, connections, masters, special training, every opportunity for success. Meanwhile, Yu Sun-dan wasn't given a thing. These two are opposites. That's the entire point. It's more than just a fight between two people wanting to spar. This is a fight between talents and hard work. What is given and what is earned. This is the first fight that really makes the series stand out. In fact, it's what made me reread the series and realized how much I missed on a great series. Compared to other fights, it doesn't feel as flashy, but this fight just feels so real. Yu Sun-dan struggles to keep up with him because of course he can't match his skill or talents. Can't match the years of training, of wisdom he's been imparted with. The deck is so heavily stacked in Shoren Yan's favor, but Yusundan doesn't care. He doesn't care how hard or heavily the deck is stacked against him. He's a testament to hard work and to dedication. Sure, he has a system that helps him out, gives him actual numbers to what he's doing, and gives him a way to unlock skills a little easier, but it's not easier than any of these prodigies. He had to struggle to survive, struggle to keep on going, push himself to what seemed like the limit every other chapter, and because of that, and his non-conformity, his non-traditional attacks, his freestyle moves, like him flipping the sword and grabbing it by the blade and smashing Shoran with the handle in a less than fortunate area, is why he's able to succeed. That specific moment is actually why I reread the series. It makes me laugh so much. His ability to work himself near exhaustion, but also his creativity, his fearlessness to change things up. I mentioned his freestyle, non-traditional attacks. The first battle with Shoran, that's shown with him grabbing his sword by the blade multiple times to land an attack. Or later on in the series when he dual wields different weapons, which is kind of seen as a taboo in the world. This is all great because it helps make this dream of hard work real, that anyone can be better than their environment, better than who they were supposed to be, better than what they were born with. It feels just very real, and not in a, oh, it's realistic way, but in a way that makes it really easy to connect and root for Yusundan's success, or root when he smashes a testicle or two. And that's no joke, literally just the first couple episodes. There is so much more in this series, and it's very much a series that you're likely sleeping on. So give it some love, give it some attention. Please check out Infinite Leveling Murim, updating every week on Webtoon.